In this video, in the beautiful Red Rock Canyon of Nevada, right outside Vegas, this is where I go. We're gonna break down what you need to do if you're thinking about hiring, firing, getting rid of toxic people, being a Christian in a tough situation. How do you show up as a Christian when you're going to fire somebody that has been loyal, has worked really hard, has done great things for your organization? How as a Christian do you show up when you have to make that call, when you have to make that tough decision? Or how about when you're growing, but you're not sure if you can financially afford to make that first hire? What are you gonna do? That's what I wanna start to break down for you all. It's a complex topic. There's a lot of nuance. This will for sure come up in the podcast, and I'll call back to this video too in that podcast to help flesh out what we're talking about. But if you're in that role and you're in that position and you wanna figure out how do you fire, hire, and retain people as a Christian, honoring God, that's what I've got for you today. Give you guys a little view from the front of this hike so you can see it. It's freaking beautiful. So awesome. All right, back at it here in Red Rocks. Today I had more time to hike through this beautiful country. Incredible. Absolutely love it out here. It reminds me of just what it must feel like for just like early civilization, just getting into this country for the first time, untouched. I gotta do some research on who were the first people to settle in this area. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of Native American tribes, but it's crazy to think. It gives you some perspective to think that like this place was just sitting here untouched for a long time, the beauty before any civilization cropped up around it. It's really cool. So I've been enjoying that. I mean, unbelievable. Look at that view. We got the moon somewhere over here. Where's the moon at? There's the moon. It's beautiful. So what am I going to get into today? I want to bring you guys through some conversations that I've been having with some close friends of mine about hiring and firing and how to show up in that process or that task as a Christian. I tell you what, hiring is tough. Firing is harder, and it's not an easy road to take in determining kind of when's the right time to do things. There's a lot of gray. A lot of judgment calls that need to be made, especially in the early days. Definitely gets easier as the business scales because there's just less risk on a per hire basis. But initial hires are just so crucial, and there's so much risk that's at play with those initial hires. And then firing and offboarding, when's the right time to do that? How do we think about that as a Christian, doing that in a way that honors the person? And then what happens when it gets ugly? What do we do when it gets ugly? When somebody doesn't give the same respect and honor back to you? That's really where I think your Christian principles in business that really show up, is in those really tough times when you actually have to make judgment calls and you have to execute on the tasks that are ahead of you, that are hard, that are gray, that are just unclear. I'm gonna do some research. There's a list of verses that one of my buddies hold that I'm gonna unpack at some point for you guys here to help put together a theology of hiring and firing, because there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there. I've read Top Grading. There's a ton in EOS with Traction, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. There's just a lot out there for hiring and firing. I can't think of the rest off the top of my head, but there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of knowledge to be gleaned. So what's the framework, how I think about it? Let me give you kind of the EOS framework. So EOS talks about three key areas in hiring. There's the GWC. Does the person get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? There's the right person, right seat, which is really a fleshed out concept from Good to Great by Jim Collins. And that's basically saying, and it's tied into the third thing. So the right person is an evaluation of, is this person a cultural fit? So you look at your core values as a business, document those core values. It's kind of step one. It's really hard to make these judgment calls if you don't know what you value as a business, as an entity. Now, one thing to just keep in mind, and core values is a whole nother offshoot topic, but when you're developing your core values as a business, as a Christian, those core values should be informed by your faith, but they don't necessarily need to be distinctly tied to biblical passages or like overtly Christian in their language or biblical in their language. They can be softened, if you will, so that it attracts non-Christians into your organization. That's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just a judgment call. It's your decision. What do you want to do? I've so far, all the core values for the businesses that I've started or built or bought or whatever have not been overtly Christian. I foresee this next phase, me being more okay with turning away, either customers or vendors or employees that aren't comfortable with more overtly Christian core values and language. But anyway, enough on the core values. We can flesh that out another time. Right person. You evaluate that person based off of the core values. It's a lot easier when that person's already in your organization and you're making a decision around firing. or keeping on that person in your organization. And they do like a plus minus or a plus minus. So plus would be this person exemplifies that core value all the time. Plus minus is sometimes they exemplify that core value. Minus is they usually do not exemplify that core value. And then you make a decision of what's our criteria as a business how many plus minuses or how many minuses are we okay with in a business? Sorry, I got this bug. And then right seat. So someone could be the right person for your organization, but the wrong seat. I may fit our software business's core values very well, but if I'm in the developer seat, I'm in the wrong seat. And that's really where you use that get it, want it capacity to do it for the right seat. So if you have the right person, wrong seat, I recommend and encourage you to look at where could we plug that person in elsewhere in the organization. If you have the wrong person, you need to let them go. And then right person, right seat is golden. There's different methodologies for evaluating talent, like top grading, which is like a series of interviews. What we've done in our organization so far is we've built question banks of interview questions based off of our core values, based off of the technical specifications of the job. For instance, if we're hiring a designer into the marketing agency, we're going to ask design-related questions to get a feel for their technical expertise. I've also, traditionally so far in my career, hired what they call greenhorns. People who are green, who have never had that role, don't have any experience. And then my goal is to train them up and get them competent in their work kind of in-house. But recently, last few hires I've had, especially on our sales and marketing department in the software business, I've hired people that have had experience. It's like a cheat code. If you can afford it, it's great, but just don't get too caught up in it. Give people a shot. So related to what me and my buddies were talking about though, this is more financially driven. This is the EOS is one concept, just talked about that. Another criteria to evaluate is the financial position of the company. And you're tracking as a company towards your financial goals. I'm going to take this one on the rest of this hike back so I'm not late for my conference. I gave these two guys that are really close. I'm sure I'll have them on the podcast here at some point. Both of them run businesses. One runs a bunch of businesses. He runs an M&A advisory firm. He runs a fitness studio. He runs a marketing and brand business, and the other guy runs a people and culture or HR consultancy. So I really respect these guys, both solid Christian dudes in my network that I rely on heavily for sort of that peer-to-peer guidance. We wrestle with topics together, and quick shout out to just having some peers to wrestle through the topics that you have that you're trying to figure out as a business. That's an awesome thing to have, especially when they're like-minded and aligned with your thinking. Highly recommend that. But so we were wrestling with a hypothetical situation that I posed to them. I'll use an example just to really hit this home and make this clear. Say I'm running this plumbing business that I'm a part of, and there is an opportunity, say the plumbing business, let's say it's doing $2 million of revenue. At $2 million, most likely you've got salespeople or person, you've got some back office folks that are handling accounting and payroll, and you got front office handling calls. It's a service-based business, so handling customer calls, coming in, asking for, hey, can you come fix my leaky toilet? So you've got front office, you got back office, you got sales, you've got some operational people involved. So say that's the business you're running, that's the context. And then you have an opportunity to go buy, let's say it's a septic business and you want to open up a septic division, and to jumpstart that, you go buy a business doing $500,000 in revenue. And say that company at $500,000 in revenue has, say, $750,000 to make the numbers work a little bit more realistic. Say they've got a back office person and that person just wears a lot of hats. Well, as a plumbing business acquiring this septic company, you've already got back office people. So what do? How do you as a Christian deal with or handle a situation where you've got a redundant role? Say the back office person, let's call it Tom in the septic company. Tom's been with the business since the beginning. Say it's been around for 7 years. He's been there for 7 years, competent, great, don't have to worry about the back office in the septic business. You're good to go. So how, if there's a redundant role and the finances, your financial goals and your financial planning requires that you only have one person running this now $3 million business for accounting, and you're going to use the person that's already in your plumbing business because they already know all your systems. How are you going to deal with that? What are you going to do? So that was the question that I posed. It's a hard question. It's not easy, because really what needs to happen is you need to let that person go. You need to let Tom go. You need to offboard Tom, even though he's competent, fits the core values, he gets it, wants it, has the capacity to do it. He's an A player. You don't have any other seats for him in the organization, and the financial goals and planning of the business requires that you slim down in his department and offboard him. In the hypothetical, we determined that the best option is how. Oh, this is sweet right here. little crevasse. So we determined that the best option for this situation is to evaluate the how in which you go about offboarding that person. That was the big thing. How you do it matters. And there's a few levers that you can pull in the how. There's the severance lever. Are you going to pay this person money on their way out to help them bridge that gap, take this home? There's the giving them some time, 2 months in business to go find another role. If that person is, performing well, cordial, respectful, why not let them operate a little bit and let them take some time to find a new job while they're working with you? Both those situations have the luxury of spending some extra money to help them. Ways to not spend money would be give them something in your network. How can you set them up in your network to help them land somewhere? Is there anybody that you can call or hit up to help them with that situation? And then another way that I've been thinking about is to personally help them out. If they're financially struggling, can you personally help them? Can you bring them some groceries? That's for more dire situations. That's what we've been thinking about. How matters. The how matters. That's where the outcome may be the same, but as a Christian, how you show up, how you execute on what you're doing, the task ahead of you, that's what matters.